Hi everyone, I'm here with this week's happiness strategy, and this week the theme is all around looking at ways we can enhance our generous spirit. Now, just to be clear, I view having a generous spirit as being something a little bit different than being somebody who regularly gives. Now, you can certainly be somebody who gives and also have a generous spirit, and the difference would be that giving is the action, whereas the generous spirit is kind of the intention or the underlying way that you view life that's sort of behind your actions. So, a generous spirit, in the way I view it, is really a way that a lens that we can view the world through. And when we connect more to our generous spirit, which I believe we all have, it helps us to see the world around us with more clarity and to see the people around us clearer and to see our similarities rather than to be focused on our differences. Because I do believe that when we believe that we're different than each other, or that when we adopt that us against them kind of mentality, that this is where so much of the discord stems from in the world. And, even in our own relationships, when we believe that we are right or somebody else is wrong, nothing good ever comes from that. Now, of course, we're all going to walk different paths and we all do have differences. But what I'm talking about here is really about humanity and about using our humanitarian lens and our generous spirit a little bit more as we walk through our daily life. So, a few ways that we can enhance and connect a little bit deeper to our generous spirit is to one way I like to do it is to check in on my stories. So we all have beliefs and judgments, and I think that's all normal. It is how we have grown up, but all of these things kind of factor into that, and it does. We all have different ways that we view life, and that's completely normal. What we can do to see a bit clearer, and this can be viewing certain situations in our life or people before us, is to check in on our own stories and our own judgments. And we can do this by simply just asking ourselves, what is it that I am thinking about this person right now that may, even though I believe it is true, to question ourselves, like, might I know the whole truth here? And then to even shift that a little bit further and to look at this person or situation before us with the idea of looking for similarities, to kind of dispel the stories that we might be operating under, and to just kind of shelf those for a minute and to just step into a more present way of being, which would allow for us to look for our similarities with other people, or situations around us, situations that we might have been in before in different times in our lives, rather than coming at different people and situations through the eyes of judgment or from a closed off perspective. Because this isn't really an open-hearted way of living at all. And when we open up more to seeing our similarities, it does create more of we do kind of connect more to that generous spirit within us, which again, when we're living from a generous spirit, it does help us to see love around us. And I do believe that it helps us to step more into a place of being love. So of leading our lives and our actions, our thoughts and our words from a place of love. So another way that we can enhance our generous spirit is again so checking in on those stories, but to step into more of a way of presence, which can be challenging depending on where we're at in our life and what's around us. But this is where we've covered this in previous weeks, where tapping into our breath can really help us to just create pause and to just create space so that we can just be in our bodies and kind of step outside of our minds and the busyness of our thoughts, and to just be present. And I find that with presence, we automatically start to notice the similarities that we share with other people around us, and situations that we've been in before. So this is a powerful way to enhance our generous spirit, is to create opportunities throughout our day where we're intentionally leading our lives from more presence. So you can access more presence through more intentional breathing, through even just setting little reminders for yourself, maybe even just creating the habit of periodically checking in, having a check-in where you're checking in on your thoughts and your stories, and not from a judgmental lens, but just from a curious lens, to sort of see what sort of narrative you're playing out in your thoughts, because that narrative is what plays out in our actions. And if we want to inject more of a generous spirit, one that has more of a loving tone, then all we need to do is really check in on our narrative and see where there's more opening to add more of that loving tone into our narrative. And again, just another way is to kind of just tap in and look into how you can create more abundance. So more abundance in the way that you are living and giving. So again, the giving, of course, is so important, and I just want to make the distinction about giving, that it's not always about material things, and to really, when we are giving, to a practice that I continually try on and grow from, is to check in on my intention for giving. Is it to be noticed? Is it to position myself? Is it to gain a feeling, a good feeling within myself, because it feels good to give? So again, there's no right or wrong, but just I believe that when we check in on our reasons and our intentions behind our giving, we can get important information to how we want to proceed. And if we want to kind of create that abundance in our life, and the greatest way to do that is to share that out with other people, and not through sharing with strings attached, or to see how it can further our position or our lives, or how we can become more connected to other things beyond ourselves and other people. It's more about looking at how we can just grow that abundance in our lives, and how we can share that out just for the sake of sharing and growing more light and love around us, rather than how that act of giving might make us look or might make us feel. So instead, it's kind of taking that one step further and looking at the intention behind it, and seeing what might change if we are kind of more present in our reasons for giving and for being a part of abundance, and if we can't create more of a humanitarian piece in that through just connecting into our own generous spirit and to our own presence, and to give in our actions, and to, I guess what I'm getting at is to really give in our presence. Like, the more present that each of us is, and of course, this is kind of easier said than done, and it isn't going to be done throughout our entire day, but the more we can kind of step into those spaces and just be in that, and be in our interactions and in our environments from that place, we automatically create more abundance around us, and we give people around us that gift of being seen and that gift of perhaps even doing the same things themselves, and to have that interaction and to have that feeling when they're in your presence. And I think if more of us stepped up and were a bit more present and adopted, and took accountability for our own generous spirit, I do believe that it would spread like wildfire. And it doesn't have to be big acts of giving. It can be this tapping into our own human spirit and sharing that out with people around us that can have the greatest impact on our own lives and the people around us. So I just want to wish everybody in the United States a very happy Thanksgiving this week. And everybody else, I just invite each of you to see how it feels when you give yourself permission to step into more of a generous spirit and to connect to your own generous spirit that lives within you, and to guide some of your steps and actions forward in your day today and this week from that place, and just see what shifts for you. And again, I look forward to connecting again next week. I hope you have an amazing week. Thank you.